this work sucks. It is the hardest thing that you'll ever do in your life. But if you don't get this stuff out, it is a cancer that festers and will kill you.
It's if we carry it around with us for the extent of our lives, I think all it's going to do is continue to make us more and more miserable. It doesn't really go away. We can lie to ourselves and say that it's gone, compartmentalize it as best we can and give it new perspectives and give it new whatever. Welcome to Forged in Silence podcast, addressing issues men face but rarely talk about. Today we have a really interesting guest here joining us. He's a men's grief coach coming from his own personal experience, and I'm really interested to hear what you have to bring to the table, Justin. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you spending time with us and sharing what you do and your own personal experience with our guests today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And starting out every episode, we'll get right into it. First, I'm going to shamelessly plug, if you are listening right now and you're not a subscriber on Apple, on all of the platforms, Spotify, YouTube, hit subscribe. Hit subscribe. We love the support. I'll tell you this, we have been getting more and more messages from men that are reaching out, that are sharing their hearts. They are connecting with what our guests have to share, and they're getting help, and they're talking about the things that they haven't spoken about before. And we're getting blessed to hear from them and also getting the opportunity to show up for them. So if you're listening right now and this is something that you're enjoying, hit that subscribe button, and it just gives the algorithm a chance to spread it out to maybe another man who could hear something that he needs to hear. So I'm going to start out with you, Justin, and I'm going to ask you, how are you really?
I am emotionally thin and spread, probably further than I've been ever. I'm almost 2 years into having lost my wife to cancer. My sister was diagnosed with breast cancer a month ago. Close veteran friend of mine committed suicide after he couldn't deal with his war demons. I have clients that I see every day for grief stuff, and they're actively grieving and trying to get better from it. And I try not to take that stuff on myself, but invariably, if you're spending time with people and being real about how things are in their life, it's going to impact your life. I've got a decision to make about where I'm going to live and what work I'm going to do that's preeminent and really stressing me out. And so that's on the crappy side. And then on the loving, awesome side, I'm remarried. I got married in August, and
Congratulations, man. Congratulations, really.
she is the right woman for me at this point in my life,
I love
and
it.
I couldn't be happier. I have a 29-year-old son that's going to have a child. I'll be a grandpa before I'm 48. I've got a 19-year-old in college, and he is thriving and doing a great job. And so I've got a lot of blessings at the same time that I've just got a lot of heavy stuff going on. That mixture of, wow, today's awesome and I'm loving every minute of it, gets triggered with, oh yeah, but you also have a lot of crap that's going on. And so it's better than it's been. I know how to push through the hard stuff by being open and honest about it. I also know that I need to show myself grace when the tough times come and I don't feel super happy and chipper and give other people what they want. I've learned how to create boundaries to keep me sane and safe, because as a natural confidant that's allowed people to pull him where they need me to be, I've learned how to say, nope, I don't have the bandwidth for that. I'm not answering that phone call. I'm not responding to that text. I'm taking care of myself. And so a lot of that is getting outside, especially in the morning for exercise. And then in the evening with a cigar around a bonfire or something, just to have some quiet time and to take care of me. But, I know I'm emotionally thin because I was at a men's retreat this last weekend with some buddies up in the mountains, and things that shouldn't make me teary-eyed or frog-throated were just hitting like constantly. And I was like, okay, something's just below the surface and you haven't dealt with it. And I know that crying is good for me, and I know that it's cathartic and it releases cortisol and all that other great stuff. And so I try to do it as often as I can, but I also have that, no, you're a tough, strong man. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and don't do that. And so screw society. Crying's good. Sharing my feelings is good. Being honest with people who love me is the right thing to do. But yeah, life gets heavy, and sometimes you wonder when the hits are going to stop coming. But long story short, I'm doing pretty good. Now I'll turn around back to you. How's it going?
Robbie, you can go first.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Justin.
Yeah, thank you. I'm grateful that you're here, Justin, because what you just spoke about is where I'm at too. I'm spread thin, but I'm frustrated, very frustrated. 2 weeks ago, I was on here saying stuff was good. 2 weeks later, stuff is not good mentally for me. Very, very frustrated, very, very angry, burning the candles at both ends. My emotional awareness is, through the roof. And every little thing that happens throughout the day uh, has a consequence right now. And it's not the best. I'm trying to, use my tools and figure out how to use my voice. I'm not very good at that. I go silent. I like to hide away. And as you were saying, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and don't show that. When, stuff is good, that's when, for me, the crying and the stuff happens. But when stuff is bad and I'm frustrated, I want to break shit. I don't know how to control my anger, and I'm still learning. But and part of that grace too is hearing you. Like, I've come so far, and I haven't been giving myself any grace. It's just how can I get through this second, this minute, this hour? How can I not be so frustrated? There's stuff out of my control I can't control, but the stuff that I can control, I'm fucking up. That's how I feel. Yeah, I'm just not in a good place. It will pass, but just hearing you say the words you said makes me feel grateful that I can sit here with another man and talk about our shit, and it's okay. We're here. We're all good. We'll get through it. Leaning on other men is hard. It's new. You'd think by now that I would say it's not new, but I think every chapter there's something new I pick up out of having to talk to another man. So this chapter now is, how do I not let my frustration come out angry? How do I set those boundaries and show respect with those boundaries? Like, hey, I'm really thin, but I'm sounding like an asshole. I don't know how to figure that out, but at least for me, I got it out. So that's where I'm at. Steve, it's your turn. How are you really?
Robbie, thank you for sharing. I know you've been quiet. It's funny because I went through a period of quietness and now it's your turn. Seems like we're handing that buck off, but
Yeah.
I was about to call you out on it here soon too, because you've gone to turtling a little bit, and you started talking yesterday, and I could hear it. I could hear the frustration in your voice, and I could hear you kicking yourself a little bit. And it's always easier to kick ourselves than it is to set boundaries and feel like an asshole. And so thanks for sharing. Thank you too, Justin. It's always hard to talk about being stretched thin and that vulnerability. So for me, I'm in a pretty good place. I've got some stressful things coming up. Final exam times coming up. Next week is an exam, a test, 2 tests. So I am looking at this weekend as an opportunity to de-stress a little bit. Justin, you talked about getting outside. It's on my bucket list of things to do here really shortly, is to get outside and touch nature and breathe some fresh air before next week comes along, because I pack my weeks pretty solid. Everything points toward me reaching the goals that I want to reach, but I'm in a good spot right now. I'm in a good space right now. Still working on trying to manage my time properly and manage the demands that are on my time. But much like you, Robbie, I think I was in that spot for demands on my time about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I've learned to say no a little bit more and a little bit quicker, and not feel as guilty about it, because I always feel, I hate saying no. I feel guilty when I say no, and I want to show up to the places that the people want me to show up to. And it sucks, but I'm getting better at it little by little. So I'm doing actually pretty good. Emotionally, not so stressed. Overall, I feel a little bit of breathing time available coming up on this Saturday, and I'm looking forward to it. And I think one of the things that has helped me through that is finding something to look forward to during the week, something during the day. Like, yeah, you know what? This is going to be great. I can look forward to that. And it gives me like something to reach towards, to be happy about, to be excited about, and that sort of thing. And honestly, I think part of it, before we get into Justin sharing his story, is we had the Northern Lights this week, and they were freaking incredible. And I spent some time outside on Tuesday night, out in the dark, taking pictures and getting some fresh air, which is something I don't normally do. And then yesterday I drove up to the middle of freaking nowhere to try and catch them again. And I sat in the back of in a truck bed, and I sat outside and drank some hot apple cider and hung out with friends. And I was just outside in the 40 degrees, bundled up, saw some shooting stars. And I think I was outside more this week than I have been for a bunch of it. So I'm pretty sure that is contributing to me being in a pretty good mood, in a good space. It's always amazing how much self-care pays off later in the week. So that's me. That's where I'm at. Justin, the floor is yours. Introduce yourself. Tell us about you, and then you can dive right in, my man.
Okay. Justin, born in Kansas. I went to school in Texas, joined the Coast Guard, and did 22 years. Retired in May of 2022, and I had decided by that time I was going to be a professional life coach. The stuff I did in the Coast Guard was great, but I didn't want to do it ever again. I'd done it long enough, and I learned that the time that I got to spend talking to people about their aspirations for the future actually was where I wanted to spend a lot of my time towards the end of my Coast Guard career, and meeting some people through, kind of like we met people through people. I found a guy who said, "Hey, become a life coach. Go do this professional training that I did. It's awesome." And so I did, and it was. And I think I'm wired to help people figure out stuff that they've got locked away deep inside and they don't know how to unlock it. And what I try to help my students and my clients recognize is that the less I know about you and what your world of work is and what you want to achieve, the better I can help you find what that thing is. Because I can be super curious. I can ask really good questions, and I can help you unlock that thing that you want to achieve or identify or get unstuck from. And so in the beginning, that was folks like me trying to transition out of the military and into the civilian world, which we do a horrible job of helping people do that well. Nobody recognizes that transition as a traumatic event that leads to a period of grief, because you leave your community, you lose your paycheck, you lose your identity, and you lose your work all in a single moment. One day you're doing all that stuff, and the next day you're not. And the brain doesn't know how to process that. And
It's just lost.
It's completely lost. It's trying to find purpose and meaning and make sense of a new reality that there is no time to really process before it actually happens. And so I tried to take the things that I learned from that myself and help others to do it better. And that worked for a little bit. And then I transitioned into kind of a mental health space, trying to help people who are in the Coast Guard to have a vocabulary for traumatic events before they actually happened. Because you take an 18-year-old kid, you put them through boot camp, and then you send them out on a boat and say, go rescue somebody. Well, sometimes you find that person. Sometimes you don't. Oftentimes you find them, but they're dead. And now we're bringing up a dead body onto a boat and taking it back to the ambulance on the beach. And they say, great, good job, you did it. Go out and do it again. And there's no time to process like, hey, I'm an 18-year-old kid who had no training in anything other than how to properly operate the boat and do my part to get where we needed to be. No one prepared me for doing this kind of stuff. And so myself and a couple of other Coast Guard guys wanted to help, like what we're doing here, like hey, let's learn how to talk about this stuff before it happens, so that when it does happen, we can then have a conversation about it afterwards and not feel the stigma of, oh, no, we don't talk about that. We're tough and we just do the job. And so that was going pretty good. But then, the new administration decided to cancel some contracts, and ours was one of those. And so I was kind of out of a job again. During that time that business was running, my wife was diagnosed with stage B cancer that they thought was her uterus, but actually was her ovaries. Her ovaries were so large that they actually covered the uterus. And we thought it was perimenopausal symptoms. And so she kind of ignored it for 6 months. And by the time they caught it, it required radical surgery that she never really came back from. And within 3 months of the surgery, every piece of cancer they'd taken out had come back. And she died because the cancer just destroyed every other organ in her body. At the time, I had a 16-year-old son at home and a 26-year-old son that lived in the area, was on his own, had his own job. And so I got to learn what it's like to be a middle-aged man who doesn't have a wife anymore. And there's nothing in life that prepares you for that either. I lost my dad at 11, and so I thought that I was prepared for any other loss that I might experience for the rest of my life. And that's a total crock of shit. Nothing prepares you for losing your spouse. But thankfully, had people who loved me and friends and family that really did a good job of not trying to fix me, but just give me a support network and a place to talk to folks about the way I was feeling about things, such that I think I did a pretty damn good job of processing my grief in a good way without therapy. But then fast forward, and I decided that now there's things I do need to have help with. And so did start therapy and then still do therapy now. But surprisingly, life coaching helped me get in touch with my emotions in a new way that actually made me better able to identify how I felt in grief, such that I kind of helped coach myself through my grief process in the beginning.
So it was like being a coach to other people allowed, while you were asking them questions about their grief, I'm guessing you were actually asking yourself those questions too.
Yeah, being able to talk to a person about grief that understands the horrible things that people say without meaning to, and how that affects you after you've lost your loved one, regardless of who it is to your
What are
relation.
some of those things so our listeners can hear? Like, what are those things? If there's
They're
something
in a
that
better
comes to your
place.
mind.
They're in a better place. Isn't it good they're not in pain anymore? Aren't you glad that, they don't have to suffer? We call them silver linings. Like, oh, let's tell you what the silver lining is and the fact that they're gone. Aren't you glad that they're not in pain anymore? No, actually, I kind of wish that they were still here. I wasn't experiencing the pain physically. And I would rather have my wife here than not. And so I had people that, 2 months after my wife died were like, well, you're going to get married again, aren't you? Aren't you going to get married again? You're too young to not be married again. I'm like, she's been in the ground for 2 months and you're already asking me about what I'm going to do for future relationships. And then on the flip side, when I thought that I was ready to start going out there again and that I had done the proper amount of healing to be a good husband to another wife, had someone say, well, isn't it too soon?
You can't win for losing, right? You just can't win for losing.
No, it's like, and I wasn't nice to this gentleman, but he was single, never married, in his early 30s. And I said, well, how many times have you been married and lost a spouse and started looking again?
Sounds like
And
he deserved it though, dude.
he was, he was properly humbled, but I kind of felt like a dick afterwards. But it's until you've lived through this thing, don't even pretend that you can start to say something that's going to make it better for me. And not only that, I'm a unique person. I was married to a unique person, and that relationship was unique. It's a fingerprint. It didn't exist and never will again, ever again. Even if I'm talking to a spouse who lost a spouse to a cancer, I don't have any of the backstory or relationship information that made them who they were together. So instead of trying to assume that I know what they feel about these things, I just have to be curious and ask them questions and help them tell me what it is that was good or bad about that relationship. And sometimes what was good or bad about that death. I mean, we have people who are glad that their loved one is dead because their loved one made their life a living hell. But that loss still affects the brain and the body because it's trying to make sense of where's that person? They're not here. And so you can still go through grief for somebody who you're actually glad they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so
That was you, Robbie, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Robbie just lost his father not too long ago.
A lot of those things that you were just saying, like, he's in a better place, all those things. I said those things to myself. Our relationship wasn't good. But now it happened in September, beginning of September. So it's not, it's still really fresh. It's very interesting to me now, though. And I want to get your take on this, Justin, because this was like my first big death. And I thought I was ready, just, because he got diagnosed, quite a few years ago. And I thought I said everything and did everything and was ready. Of course, you never are. That was a lie. I was telling myself to feel comfortable. I now know that and recognize it. But now it's the things, and you hit kind of on it. It's like the way I would interact with my dad is like I'd see a deer and I'd take a picture of it and send it to him. And it was a little while ago, there was a deer and I took a picture of it and I went to send it to him. And I was like, oh, he's not here. Well, I can't send that to, I'm just going to send it to his phone and, his wife will answer it or he'll go wherever, But you said something. It's like, I wish he was still here to have him receive that picture. Even though he was in all that pain and his life was just what it was. It's like, I wish he was still here to receive that picture. And the grief comes and goes. I think about him every single day. Most of it's good now, but it's like I've created this new relationship with him that now he's gone in my grief. And the hard part is it hurts because I didn't have the courage, to talk to him about those things that I felt before, when he passed, when he was alive. And now I'm recreating the story in my head of what if, I wish, all these other things. And it's like, God, I wish he was still alive.
Thank you for sharing that. One thing that you're always going to get is, I'm sorry for your loss. And that's a silver lining, I think. The best thing to say is, I can't understand what you're going through. That sucks.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing good about that loss. And so who you were as son is still there inside you, but you don't have that person to relate to as that version of yourself anymore. It sucks. There's just no other way to say it. But I'm interested about how you say that you think about him perhaps differently than you did maybe a month or two ago. And you said that mostly it's good now.
Yeah. He created that event in my life when I was 6 years old and pretty much abandoned me, changed the, trajectory of my life. And I held that against him. It just continued on. The way I feel, he just grew more distant. He didn't care. He went on to new relationships, cared about their kids. I just became the shadow of the very beginning. He was very young when he and my mom got pregnant. He was 17, 18 when I was born, so he was still a kid himself. But now it's like I just wish that I would have had that conversation and not so much told him what he did to me, because that would never fixed anything, but just to have that real relationship that I wanted, that I got taken away from me. And I don't really know how to fully express that. I would have to sit down and talk with him to get all those emotions and all those things out. Because when I'm saying it, it just sounds crazy to me because I put up that wall and fought it till his death. And, to his death, it was just like, it got to the point where he was incoherent, wasn't making any sense when I talked to him. So I just quit talking to him. I would go see him. He would sleep all day. He would make me upset because, he'd get up, say a few weird things to us, then he'd go away. So I was still hurt from that. I'm like, you're still doing this to me, even though he was in all this pain. He would probably consciously wasn't doing it. And I think now it's like, there's some kind of saying, you don't know where you've gone until it's gone. Now it's gone. And I'm hurt. I'm sad. And it's like, I just want to rewrite that story, but I don't know how. So what makes me feel good is, celebrating those memories I do have that were good with him. But like saying that picture of that deer, I would always just send him pictures of wildlife, stuff that we used to share together. And now that I can't do that, maybe I should. Maybe I should just do that to get some closure there. I guess I don't know where I'm going with this, but I guess I still feel really hurt and sad and missed out on opportunity to, I hate to say fix it, but maybe just to say my piece and show my love.
Can I offer a suggestion on one way you could do that? So, whether or not the relationship was good when we lose a loved one, and even if we know that it's coming, I think regardless, there are some things left unsaid. There are some things that maybe aren't resolved. And in those instances, the best thing that I think somebody can do is write a letter, as though we were going to send it to the person and they were going to read it. And in the actual writing of the words that are trapped inside you right now, there is a healing that goes on by being able to actually make it real, by putting it on paper. And writing with your hand is better than typing. There's something about the brain processing the information that you're saying and making it real and putting it on paper that actually feels like a relief. And I've done it. And sometimes things come down on the paper that you weren't expecting, because it can start out as like, oh, I loved you and you were the best and I miss you and all this. And then it can turn into, but you know what? There was this one thing about you that pissed me off that I never could tell you to your face. And it's almost like you're cleansing yourself of that stuff that's still stuck inside. And then you can keep the letter, you can burn it in a fire, you can do whatever you want to with it. But I would suggest that you may find some healing in that exercise.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think I could write many letters now thinking about that. I think the first one will start to affect and I can keep building on that. And that's probably, keep writing letters to him because I know those stuff's going to change. And finally, you said cleansing, and that's a perfect word. It's like I'm carrying something that I don't need to carry. Just gotta get it out. That's a good, powerful way to get it out.
And so I'll take one more step then and ask you if you'd be interested in, once you've written a couple of letters to your dad, I want you to write a letter to you forgiving you all that stuff that you're holding against yourself. That's going to be the hardest one to write.
Yep. I'll do it. I need to do it.
Reach out if you need anything, Robbie.
Thank you.
Always.
And I'll be honest, this work sucks. It is the hardest thing that you'll ever do in your life. But if you don't get this stuff out, it is a cancer that festers and will kill you.
Like a lot of other emotional baggage, it's if we carry it around with us for the extent of our lives, I think all it's going to do is continue to make us more and more miserable. It doesn't really go away. We can lie to ourselves and say that it's gone, compartmentalize it as best we can and give it new perspectives and give it new whatever. And I'm sure you can make it feel less dull, but I think when we dull that, we dull other things in our lives as well. Like I think we miss out more if we learn to dull certain emotions.
I think you can try to numb them.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've learned from my personal experience is if there's a part of me that's got that dirt that I'm trying to compartmentalize, it seeps out.
Mm-hmm.
It seeps out in anger. It seeps out in substance abuse. It seeps out in uncontrollable emotion of any kind, and you don't know where it's coming from. But that's what it is. It's a black ooze. It's coming through the cracks in the compartment that you've built for it, and it's going to come out. You can't stop it.
Okay, Justin. Keep on going. Thank you, Robbie, by the way.
Yeah.
Light cleanses. The reason why our forefathers would hang their laundry out in the sunlight was not because it dried it. It dried it, but the sun also cleanses things, right? If you have something that's dark and dank, that's where mushrooms grow, right? You expose them to light and they die because you clean things with light. Well, I think it's the same thing. My wife will be an ever-present presence in my life. I shared life with her for 20 years. We had children together. We raised a family together. We had life experiences together. There's a part of me that is her. If I don't deal with the things that come from her loss, if I don't productively and healthily confront my grief and expose it to the light that is healing, then I will be stuck in that grief for the rest of my life. And if I take those emotions and I try to numb them with alcohol, I'll be an alcoholic. If I take those emotions and I try to bury them away, I'm going to be explosively angry against people who I love and hurt them and push them away. I almost even believe that unresolved stress and emotional damage in the body leads to physical ailments. The only way that we expose these things to the light is saying them, writing them down, getting them out there in front of other people who want to help me to clean that stuff up and hold me accountable to be honest when I start saying things. And I truly believe that in a forum like this, or in a coaching situation, or even just a couple of dudes sitting around a fire, if they're going to open up and be honest about what's going on in their lives, they're inviting light into them to cleanse them of that crap so that it doesn't kill them slowly for the rest of their lives.
Question for you, because you said something that's like really important, is having a space to share that darkness, share the grief, share the pain, try and find a way to put words to it when we haven't tried to put words to it for a really, really long time. Like you said earlier, you were trying to help those 18-year-olds have language for the shit they were going to see later on, doing the things that they were doing. When you don't have language for it, and when you get into I'm 43, turning 44, and I didn't start trying to learn really how the language of life, which is emotion. I didn't start trying to learn that actively until I was 39, and that's when I quit drinking. I had to. That was like a necessary thing to try and figure out how I wasn't ever going to drink again. And so here I am now, 4.5 years later, learning and knowing the language helps me immensely. Robbie, I know you can say the same thing because you and I have gone through a lot of this together now, even trying to find the language when you and I are talking. And sometimes I don't know what it is. And then you reflect back to me and it's like, here's what I think you're experiencing. And then it's like, fuck, yeah, but I'm lucky. Robbie's lucky. We found each other, and we've found some safe spaces in our lives where I can go ahead and I can bear that without feeling too much ick. And so you're going to feel ick anyways. It's just going to be part of the experience, because saying that shit hurts, saying that shit's embarrassing, saying that like there's a lot of other emotions that come with that backpack that I don't want to experience. This is why I don't want to talk about it. But how do you find, that's a long way, really long-winded, and I'm long-winded anyways. It's a long way to say, where do you find those safe spaces? If there's guys out there that I know they want to speak, and there's guys out there that I know that like, I have no one to talk to. There's no one I trust with the shit that's going on through my head, and that I can deal with the embarrassment with just to get it out.
It's a gamble.
Truth.
When you choose to be honest and open with somebody, you are gambling that they're not going to take that thing and turn around and make fun of you, hold it against you, think less of you, or just leave you. And
Absolutely
so
love your honesty there. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. It's a gamble.
But once I learned the strength of having male relationships that meant something, I learned real quick how to interact with men in a way that forced them to either man up and do it too, or retreat back into their so-called masculinity.
So-called.
Great way.
So I chose to call my grief coaching company Manly Grief. And I know you could think of like, oh, big ripped guy, former Navy SEAL, did all the things and he's a badass. Nope, that's not manly grief. Manly grief is being brave enough to heal and start practicing those things that are the opposite of what toxic masculinity is. Being brave enough to heal is finding a guy and taking that chance and saying, you know what? Today I feel like crap. and I need to talk to somebody about it, because if I don't get it out, it's going to turn into something I don't want. And that person may take it and say, yeah, man, tell me what you need. Or they may say, you're a pussy. I don't want to talk to you. Well, you don't know what kind of response you're going to get. But one thing I learned for sure after my wife died was I can be as jealous with my time as I want to, and nobody can say anything about it. And if you're not benefiting me in my life, you're not in it anymore. The friends that I had made over 22 years in the Coast Guard, the ones that counted, showed up, and they're still in my life. The ones who were just kind of casual acquaintances, they disappeared. And if they showed up when it was good for them, I ignored them. The only way that you're going to be able to find a safe space with men who are willing to help you with the real things of life is by creating it for yourself. It's not waiting out there for you. You've got to be a man and go out there, and you got to make it happen for yourself. And that means finding somebody brand new like Robbie or Steve and saying, hey, I'm Justin. I lost my wife. I feel like shit, and I need to talk about it. And you guys could go, that's not what this is for, and laugh me off the screen, and okay, that's done. I'm not going to waste any more energy on you jokers. But no, you both said, nope, come on in, brother. We'll take you, and we'll listen to you, and we'll feed you, and we'll give you what you need. And that creates a bond. They say it takes 200 hours to know whether or not you're actually going to be a close friend with somebody.
No way.
I would say, yeah, if I'm going to talk about the football score and current politics and
Yeah.
The bullshit?
How are you? I'm good.
Absolute worthless stuff, right? If you're going to sit down with me and you're going to spend 15 minutes talking about life and how it's hard and what's important, and you're going to be honest about it, and you might even get choked up and show a tear, we've formed a bond that is different and doesn't require 200 hours.
I believe that.
And the reason why men have a loneliness epidemic right now is because they're chicken shit, and they'd rather be on their phones getting their dopamine hit than going out there and trying to find connections that make a difference in their lives.
You're hitting all those topics right on the head. All the stuff that Steve and I talk about, the courage. I think for me, it's the courage to come out and just admit or talk about my problems. It took a lot of courage for me yesterday and it also took a lot of anger to motivate me too. Not going to lie. There was some of both, mixed in there. I was sick of the same rerun. That's why I quit my substance abuse. Same rerun. Get sober, same rerun. You can play the same rerun in your head forever, and nothing is going to fix it until you figure out your shit, get the courage. Man, woman, doesn't matter. Talk it out, shed some tears. But the other thing too is there's so many people out there giving advice, telling us what we need to do. And we can get that dopamine hit from our phone, right? You can get that guy or woman telling us how to be a better person. And you're like, oh, this feels good. This is what I need to do. We know most people don't put that into any type of real thing. They just hit it. They switch to the next one. Oh, this feels good. Maybe I'll do that routine. For me is doing it. That's when everything changes. And you hit something on too, Justin. It's hard. The hardest things in our life is to sit with our stuff, get through to the other side. Sometimes that other side is a long road and we have to sit in a lot of stuff. But, in my experience, those dopamine hits that I get from that glimpse of being a better person, a better father, better friend, better family person have far outweighed any dopamine hit I've got from alcohol, drugs, my phone, exercise, you name it. Those hits, like you guys, I'm sure when you feel that, you feel it and you're like, ooh. And I always say it's that light bulb moment when that light bulb goes off in my head and it's like, everything changes. And it's, the trauma is that one event that changed your life for this. I believe that there are some good things kind of in that same light. Like when that light bulb goes off and you're just like, whoa, and you change that trajectory of whatever you're doing. And then you start noticing all those little things, all that hard work showing you that you're going the right way. I think that's really hard for men in the society we're in right now, is finding those little glimpses of hope and happiness and joy. Oh, we can suppress all that. I think a lot of us think that scrolling is joy. I didn't find real joy until, you know, recently with quitting my substance abuse and getting sober. That's when I started finding real joy. I thought my joy was getting high, and that's where joy came from. But I just think it takes a lot of courage. And what you said is, if I tell you something and it goes the wrong, the wrong way, you're gone. I think that a lot of men just need to start doing that instead of holding on to these people to support their uncomfortableness.
We have an expectation that people are going to show up for us, and then we get pissed off when they don't. And then we try again with the same people over and over again, and we get pissed off when we don't. And I'm not saying to just cancel people, because we live in worlds of extremes. And if you're not this, then you're fucking gone. I mean, if you're a family member, that's not entirely the healthiest thing to do either. But what that means is then I just need to put my energy somewhere else, and I need to look. And strangers I say this over and over again, strangers saved my life. They were the people that I didn't have. You know, if Joe down the street walks down, and I'm not saying you talk to everybody down the street, but if Joe walks down the street and I need someone to talk to, and he doesn't want to, that's not nearly as offensive as it is a loved one or somebody that I thought was supposed to be there. And like that's a level of grief all on its own, because I had that expectation that that person was going to show up. It's hard to talk about the things that we feel like are going to make us look like less than a man. The hardest part is when we don't talk about that, we become less of a man than what we want to be. So you end up with this double-edged sword of, and Justin, you said toxic masculinity, and I really think of toxic masculinity as lack of it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. Yeah, talking about the hard shit. Absolutely. It's a necessary, and finding it's hard. Finding it is a struggle, and there are people out there. There's more people out there that are willing to listen than we can give guys credit for. Because I personally know a fair amount of men that are willing to take the time and listen and be there and try and show up. We ain't going to get it perfect. We're going to say stuff, like you said, silver lining things, sorry for your loss. It's that's like a thing that I used to say. And then it drives me nuts, because it is putting you over there, because I don't know how to deal with your emotion. And that's okay. Like, that happens. I see that now. So I try and change my language around it, but it's tough when you don't know what to say. And when we don't know what to say, we land in the silver lining bucket.
And the best default is silence. Physical presence in silence.
Isn't that wild? Just create the space for thought to happen so somebody can finally step into it instead of filling it with something.
The reason why we say all this stupid stuff that we do when we're around somebody who's grieving is that we're uncomfortable with their emotions and we want them to get over it.
So we don't feel
And so that's why we say those things of like, they're in a better place, they're not experiencing pain anymore. Isn't it better that you don't have to take care of them and be around them in that pain and blah, blah, blah? And it's basically saying, hurry up with your emotions, because I'm uncomfortable around them and I don't want to be here with you.
So how has your healing helped you now in your current relationship with your new wife? Because I want our listeners, I want the men that are still listening to see the hope that's on the other side of you stepping into your grief and figuring that out, and how it's clearly, I mean, you're married now, so it's clearly working well for you, and it's working in your relationship. So I want to hear like how that's working. How's yeah, I'll shut up.
I could not be the husband that I need to be with my current wife if I had not gone through 20 years of marriage and the loss of my first wife. Because my wife came from a relationship that was not ideal. I'll just say that. And she's done a lot of work to heal from that. I think I needed to have a similar level of life experience and trauma that helped me to see that we were both not broken, but mending from very hard pasts, and that we both still had work to do together. And we both have a language for the work that we have done up to this point and that we choose to do for each other as we move forward, because we both recognize the mistakes that we made or that our spouses made and what we are and are not willing to put up with this second. My first wife was right for me at that time. This wife is right for me at this time. And with two grown men, boys, helping them to process their grief at the same time that I was dating a new woman who was not their mother, and helping them to see that I was not dishonoring her by moving on in life. She would want me to continue to live life to the fullest.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't do that as a 46-year-old widower who was going to be angry and alcoholically abusive and miserable for the next 45 years of my life, if I even made it to that. And so I would say that for the time that I dated and now have been married to my current wife, that has helped maybe in a way for me to even be, it may have even accelerated the rate at which I healed my grief.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted to be the best man that I could be for her, which meant that I had to deal with my shit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I hear you there. Justin, before we wrap this up, was there anything that you were hoping you could share here on this episode that you haven't shared yet? And if that's not the case, you can finish it off with what advice would you give anyone that is experiencing like a tidbit? What is like something that you wish you could have heard? So you got
don't
two.
have to go, yeah, sorry. You don't have to go it alone. There are men out there, there are women out there who will be a safe person for you, who desire to have somebody to talk to about real stuff just as much as you do. And it is a scary thing to go out and do that, but it is worth it. It is life-giving to be able to go find that person and do that for each other. So don't be afraid. Do it.
Awesome. Well, Justin, thank you for showing up today, showing up on this episode and sharing your heart, sharing your experience with us and sharing like this tough stuff, man. It's tough stuff. And Robbie, I want to thank you too, because I know you've recently experienced this and you clearly connected with some of the things that Justin said, and you've shared your heart with us on this episode too. Like you always do and always show up. And I know you've been feeling it this week. And so I want to thank you too, Robbie. So for all you men out there that are listening, if you've made it this far in this episode, and I know these two gentlemen, if you look them up on Instagram, and Justin is Manly Grief at Manly Grief on Instagram, and Robbie's, is it Run Mountains? I don't know.
Runs hills.
It's always runs hills, runs mountains. You run them all.
Run them all.
You run them all. I just hike. So anyways, I know these two gentlemen would be more than willing to listen and hear what you have to say. You can reach out to us at Forged in Silence Podcast on Instagram, and either myself or Robbie will be there to listen. So Justin, thank you. Our listeners, thank you. You don't have to do this alone. We are out here. We are willing to help and share. So thank you again, Justin. And till next time.